Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Decoding the Unknown with me, Simon, your host here on the show, joined by, not literally, but like joined through words together. Katie is here, she's written this script, I'm going to read it. It's all about the Toynbee tiles, decoding the cryptic messages on streets across America. Okay, never heard of this, let's just jump in, shall we? The forward of the show, if you're new here, never read this before, we're going to explore it together, dear audience. We're going to see what this secret message is. Have you ever been wandering around somewhere new or even somewhere you've walked through a million times and suddenly noticed something a bit out of the ordinary? The cartoonish sticker on a road sign, a flash of spray paint or on a wall, or as residents of the USA, but mostly Philadelphia, have been finding over the past few decades, lettered tiles adhered to the roads with a cryptic message touting outer space and the promise of eternal life. Uh-oh. You discovered these tiles, have you? Sounds like you've taken the first step to joining a cult. Is it street art or a conspiracy theory? What do these messages mean? How have so many been laid without any witnesses? How are they stuck to the street? Who is behind them? This is a rare Decoding the Unknown, where we'll answer all of the questions. Oh my god, we decoded something.
It's about time.
Hundreds of episodes. Finally, we've solved a mystery. What is a Toynbee tile? Let's start with the description of what we're talking about, what are known as the Toynbee idea tiles. The Toynbee plaques, or just the Toynbee tiles, are rectangular pieces of one or more layers of different color linoleum with lettering cut out to form a similar message each time. Hundreds of these tiles have been found embedded in asphalt all across the eastern United States, from Boston, Massachusetts to Kansas City, Missouri. If someone asked me to highlight where Missouri was on a map, I'd be like, I have no idea. Also, why is Kansas City not in Kansas? There is a state called Kansas, right? Dorothy's from there. It's not a city, right? No, Kansas. The state of Kansas. That exists. Alabama. Kansas. No, Alabama's also a state. Oh, I don't know. Look. Couldn't tell you where it was on a map. Tiles have been in pedestrian crosswalks outside the Empire State Building, in the middle of busy highways, and in Times Square. One was even seen at the entrance to the Holland Tunnel, a tunnel under the Houston River connecting New Jersey's Jersey City to New York's Lower Manhattan. They have also been documented in Argentina, Chile, and Brazil, always trying to spread the same message. But sometimes the wording is in Spanish. While the sizes vary, they're usually quite small around. Someone's made a mistake if they put Spanish tiles in Brazil, being that they speak Portuguese there. Hello there, everyone. Before we continue with today's video, I want to talk to you about something really important. Look, have you ever Googled yourself and been like, whoa, what's that doing on there? How? Why Google? How did you get this? It's a bit of an unwelcome surprise party that you never asked for. Look, let me introduce today's sponsor, Aura. They've got your back. That's right, Aura is here to help protect your privacy. There are data brokers out there making a killing selling your info to pesky robocallers and spammers. It's not cool, but Aura can help identify those data brokers and send them out opt-out requests, forcing them to take your info down. Goodbye, spammers. And here's the kicker. Aura doesn't stop at that. They're like a Swiss Army knife of online protection. With a single subscription, you get parental controls, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft insurance, and more, all in one affordable package. Aura does the heavy lifting so you can focus on what really matters. It's like having a digital bodyguard keeping you safe online 24/7. So why leave your personal info up for grabs? You've got two choices. Either let people profit off you or do something about it. Take back your online privacy with Aura. Go to aura.com/decoding to start your 2-week free trial. It's right there in the description below. Just click it, try it out. Thanks to Aura for sponsoring, and now back to today's video. While the sizes vary, they're usually quite small, around 30 by 15 centimeters or 12 by 6 inches. Whoa, I assume they were much smaller. I assume they were like this big. What? How is that? 5 centimeters? 2 and a bit inches? Like this. Okay, these are larger than I thought. These are quite big. So what is the message on these tiles? While it may vary slightly across different tiles, the base message is usually the same, and it is as follows. Toynbee idea. In Kubrick's 2001, resurrect dead on planet Jupiter. It feels very culty, doesn't it? Sometimes the word Kubrick is replaced with the word movie, but the main message is basically the same on each tile. So you might be thinking now, okay, well, what does all of this mean? Most tiles have smaller additional text either squashed into the main body of the tile itself or just added on below, which add an even stranger flow to the whole thing. These extra messages include things such as make Please make and glue tiles as the American media is working with the Soviet Union and its thousands of fronts in the USA. And under Freedom of Information Act, NBC journalists funneled FBI information on me to Soviets. Also, and if this idea survives after all, make those hellions pay for what they've done. I'm begging you. And make and glue tile. You. Only by destruction of media can this movement survive. And creepily, murder every journalist. I beg you. This is sounding less like joining a cult now, and it's sounding more like someone who has a case of schizophrenia. What can we make of these seemingly insane, or at least paranoid ramblings? Yeah, paranoid schizophrenia, that's the one I meant. Has Banksy gone off his meds? While seeing a tile or two in a lifetime might not make many people that interested in the whole thing, seeing or hearing reports of hundreds spread across a wide area over many years will make some people desperate to get to the bottom of the mystery. Justin Durr is one such person. I mean, I get it. I guess because I do a podcast about this stuff, or a YouTube show if you're watching, hello. I get it. Like, this actually sounds like quite a fun hobby would be to work out the mystery behind these things. So some people are like, Justin, you got way too much time on your hands. I'm like, Justin sounds like he has a good hobby. After noticing his first tile embedded into a crosswalk he was using in South Street, Philadelphia in 1994, he went on a very long and ultimately successful mission to find out all he could about the Toynbee Tiler. This was all recorded in a documentary, Resurrect Dead, The Mystery of the Toynbee Tiles, which was filmed in 2006 and took a further 5 years for the director John Foy to release. It was basically a labor of love for all concerned, and it ended up winning the Directing Award for Documentaries at the 2011 Sundance Film Festival, as well as being nominated for the Grand Jury Prize for Documentaries. That's quite impressive, right? Sundance, I've heard of that one. And the Grand Jury Prize for Documentaries sounds important, as does the award for directing. It's currently a 7.2 on IMDb, and I watched it free on YouTube, though I probably shouldn't have. If it's on YouTube, fair game. If you're like downloading it from like Pirate Bay or whatever, is Pirate Bay still around? Like, if you're downloading it, then it's a bit like, okay. But if you Google it and you find it on YouTube, fine. Most of the information you can find out about the Toynbee Tile has come from the documentary or references it, and the film is as much about Justin Durr as it is about the Toynbee Tiler, so who better to lead us through this strange story? Lead on, good sir. Resurrect Dead. As previously mentioned, Justin noticed his first tile in 1994 and couldn't stop thinking about it. He was around 18 at the time and had embraced Philadelphia's underground punk scene and was living in a squat with many other people. Sometimes you do get these mysteries, and you're like, why is it like that? There is. It's the biggest and most fascinating mystery in my life. There is a car on a street outside on my way to work that I walk past every day. Every other car that I've ever seen has this format of license plate. There's a number, then there's a letter, then there's a letter or a number, and then there are 4 numbers. And this one has, instead of 4 numbers at the end, it has a letter and then 3 numbers. I've never seen this before. Now I'm looking at thousands of cars' license plates it's like some sort of OCD thing. I'm just watching all the cars go past, just looking at that, trying to find someone else who has a license plate with a letter on it. And there are none. And I want to see this person come to their car someday, and they're going to be like, why is there a B there? They'll be like, what? And they'll be like, why is there a B on your license plate? I'll be like, what are you talking about? It's a license plate. And I'll be like, that should be a number. And he'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's just what they issued me. But it's very strange. And I tried Googling it. I went onto a website called licenseplatemania.com. I delved into this deep. I could find no reference to why there is a letter there. It's not a special number plate. It's not like for, construction vehicles or cleaning vehicles or diplomatic vehicles. It's just a regular ass number plate that has a letter in the wrong place. And I don't know why. And it's driving me mad. I should make a documentary about finding this out. It should be a very short documentary. Excuse me, sir. Hello, yes, over here. If anyone knows the answer to that, check license plates, let me know. Solve this mystery for me, please. After getting a job as a courier, he spotted more and more tiles all over the city and became somewhat obsessed in finding out what all the words on them meant. Who or what was Toynbee? What did it have to do with the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey? Did the tiler actually mean that dead people could be resurrected on the planet Jupiter? Eventually, his local library got internet access, and Justin was so excited to be able to go and check into all of this stuff that he took a day off work to investigate. I mean, the early days of the internet was very... I remember getting home from school and being like, yes, let's go on the internet! Here's a cool fact. Toynbee idea was the first thing he ever typed into a search engine. How many people can remember the first thing they ever searched for online? I can. GTA cheats. Actually, when we got our first massive PC that came with Encarta, my sister and I were looking for pictures of Harrison Ford for my mum and Linda Lusardi for my dad, so that was probably what we were typing in. Unfortunately for Justin, the strange combination of words he had imagined in his brain brought back 0 results, which he thought was kind of creepy. Yeah, it's not Google in 2023. It's a search engine from when, like 1990 something or other. You could type in like something fairly obscure and it's like, no results, no one's talked about this on the internet yet, it's too new. It's really not that strange though, given that he was a super early adopter of investigating these tiles online and didn't have the luxury of almost everything in the world being available to search back then. A few months later, he tried again and boom, other people had also been taking note and websites had started popping up about the mysterious tiles. Through his online research and talking with other people, Justin managed to find out the following. The Toynbee reference was more than likely historian and philosopher Arnold J. Toynbee. Movie 2001, or Kubrick's 2001, was clearly referencing 2001: A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick and released in 1968. Resurrect dead on planet Jupiter was a literal theory that dead people could be brought back to life on Jupiter. Whose theory is that? That's like the mental asylum theory. It sounds absolutely insane, and it is.
Why are you crazy?
Because nothing lives on Jupiter. It's a gas giant with enormous gravity that will crush you to a pulp. So yes, it doesn't really make much sense when put together. Let's explore the Toynbee part a little further. As well as many other publications, Arnold Joseph Toynbee published the seminal 12-volume A Study of History between 1934 and 1961. According to historian Michael Lang, during the 20th century, quote, Toynbee was perhaps the world's most read, translated, and discussed living scholar. His output was enormous, hundreds of books, pamphlets, and articles. Due to the popularity of his work and more accessible abridgments being regularly found in even non-academic households, it's clear that his books and ideas were easily accessible to the average person. The Toynbee idea that crops up on every tile seems to be in reference to the 1969 book Experiences, where Toynbee posits that if you believe a soul can exist without a body, then it might be scientifically possible to resurrect it in some way. There are only a few sentences about this, though, and the idea doesn't seem to be a big part of the book at all. The Tyler linked this to the movie 2001 because this contains an expedition to Jupiter and has scenes that seem to hint at rebirth being possible in outer space. If this seems a tad tenuous, yeah, the link seems a tad the link seems a little bit tenuous, but the idea seems, well, just a little bit. There is another link, maybe by way of 2001's co-screenplay writer Arthur C. Clarke. Oh, I didn't know Arthur C. Clarke had something to do with 2000. Oh, wait, did he write the original book? Was he the original author of the book? I've read some Arthur C. Clarke, like back in the day. I really enjoyed it, but it's been a very long time. Did he write Space Odyssey? Oh, he did. It was a novel first. Oh, it was developed concurrently with a film? That's amazing. Whoa! He had previously written a story called Jupiter 5, in which an advanced alien race leaves messages for humans on a satellite of the planet Jupiter. These aliens correctly believe humans will eventually achieve long-distance space travel. This bears some similarities with Kubrick's 2001, and guess what the spacecraft is called in the Jupiter 5 story? Arnold Toynbee. You can see how some people's minds might start making connections here. Yeah, that is more than coincidence. At first glance, these Toynbee tiles might just seem like a random assortment of words, but the message that Tyler appears to be trying to get across is that they believe Toynbee's idea of souls and therefore dead people being resurrected is possible if we look to movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey for ideas in which direction to go in our scientific advancement in order to make this a reality. Yeah, guys, there's some benefit to looking at science fiction to progress science, like looking at little Captain Kirk's little communicator and being like, that's quite a good idea. Some sort of mobile telephone. And that's good. But like being like, well, in this movie, they resurrect people from dead in space and on Jupiter. Shall we see if we can make that happen? No, it's too out there. That's too much, too far. But yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Agreed, Katie, definitely not. After not being able to make much headway with the main message, Justin started becoming more interested in what he calls the sidebar texts, which were the extra little notes under or sometimes beside the main message. These were ones saying things such as, and if this idea survives after all, make those Helions pay for what they've done. I'm begging you. These are clearly more personal and either hint at a much larger organization trying to shut this person down and stop them spreading this message, or they are the product of a paranoid mind, or they are just a hoax. Yeah, it's either B or C, isn't it? It's not, CNN's not after this guy for like pasting linoleum tiles around cities. They've probably never even heard of this. A much larger installation of 4 white tiles put together with a familiar font also appeared on the streets of Philadelphia in 1997. Dubbed the Manifesto tile, it name-checks newspaper owner John Knight and accuses him of sending the mafia to kill our unknown Tyler in 1991. There were various generations of people called John Knight who owned the Philadelphia Inquirer at some stage, but none of them appeared to have been alive in 1991. The Tyler also called himself a Hellion Jew, but I don't think any of the Knights were Jewish. There were also a couple of other references to Jews on the tile, which don't do the Tyler any favors and cast him in an even more paranoid light. He says that he had to secure his home with blast doors and ran away to Dover in England, but was basically dragged back, and now all these media companies are spying on him and trying to intimidate him. The message ends on a total cliffhanger. When KYW and NBC executives told John Knight, the whole coven gloated on how their Soviet pals had found a way to turn it into ... And that's it. There's no more tile. There's no more message. The Manifesto tile was paved over a few years later. So let's check back in on our Toynbee tile fan, Justin. One day he was walking home at around 4 a.m. and saw a black rectangular piece of what he called tar paper lying on the road. As it was a quiet time of day, nothing had driven over it yet, so it was still shiny and fresh. He peeled up a corner and, lo and behold, the familiar text was revealed underneath. He'd stumbled upon the creation of a Toynbee tile and had missed the Tyler by just minutes. This answers part of the question that a lot of people had about these tiles. How are they embedded into the asphalt, and how come no one has ever been seen laying one? It seems that the Tyler placed them down with this tar paper on top. Pressure from passing cars would flatten the layers down and eventually wear away the top surface, revealing the colored tile underneath, which was now firmly stuck down to the road. It's pretty smart. Why nobody has ever seen anyone putting down one of these tiles, though, remains a mystery. Well, so far. I'll tell you about that later. Is it such a mystery? If I was going to do this, you'd just be like, you'd do it at night or whatever. If you really wanted to be sneaky, you'd go out into the street and you'd be like, you'd take it out from underneath your jacket, you'd plop it down, and then you'd press it gently down with your feet and move on. It would take all of 5 seconds. And hopefully no one would be around, and that's it. It doesn't seem like, or you'd just drop down, pretend to be tying your shoe, and then leave it there, and then move your shoe onto it, and just be like, done. Easy. Boom.
Smart.
As the years go by, the Toynbee tiles become perfect fodder for burgeoning forums and message boards around the internet. Interest really picks up between 2000 and 2005, with people questioning if it's part of a conspiracy theory or if secret societies are involved. People also report having seen Toynbee tiles as far back as the 1980s, but decades after the first tiles were noticed, nobody had gotten any closer to solving the mystery of who was placing them and how exactly it was done. After posting many times on forums and discussion groups, Justin ends up teaming up with fellow tile enthusiasts, photographer Steve Weineck, and a Toynbee Tiles website board moderator called Colin Smith. Together, they really wanted to crack the secret of who was behind the maddening tiles. As Justin later says in the film, "We're not dealing with the supernatural. The tiles are being cut out by some kind of blade. A hand is holding the blade. It's totally real, it's physical, it's tangible. It's not a shadow, it's not a phantom, it's not a ghost. Somewhere there's a human being who's behind all of this." What a shocking revelation, Justin. He also says, slightly more succinctly, it's a person. It's someone somewhere. This feels a little bit repetitive, doesn't it? I'd be like, cut that out. Cut that out. Too much bloat. Speaking of bloat, I'm aware of the irony. I think we'll refer to this group as the Tile Team going forward, which includes director John Foy, as he was there to film much of their progress. Thanks to the reach of the online forums and all the chatter about the tiles, the Tile Team had several clues to go on. However, they seemed a pretty random bunch of things, namely a mailing address in South Philadelphia, a 1983 article from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and a one-act play by David Mamet called 4 a.m. Okay. What is going on? Following the clues. Alright, here we go. As previously mentioned, loads of tiles were found across South America, and on at least one found in Santiago, Chile, was an address on South 7th Street in Philadelphia. An actual house number might have been given, but this and the zip code are blurred out by the filmmaker. Thinking it unlikely that the actual Toynbee Tyler still or ever lived at that address, the Tile Team set to work making flyers asking if anyone recognized the work, and if so, they could help solve a mystery that had been going on for over 20 years. They posted them all over the area and tried to deliver them to all the townhomes on the block. One local resident said that the person currently living at the address given on the Santiago tile is a recluse known as Sevi the Birdman. If anyone's calling you the Birdman, you need to check what's going on in your life. Why are people calling me the Birdman? Is it all the birds? Should I get less birds? As he looks after injured birds and drives a car with rims but no tires, I think. That's not what? No one's doing that. You're getting pulled over by the police. They're like, yo, you up the road. And your rims. Like, what are you doing? The description was a bit confusing. What a character. His full name is Severino Werner, and obviously he jumps straight to the top of the suspect list, which is expected as there's nobody else on the list at the moment. Even if there were, it'd be like, do you think it's John? Just regular ass John? Or do you think it's Severino the Birdman, who collects birds and doesn't have tires on his car? He's just driving around like a maniac. Do you think it's him who's putting like linoleum tiles down around the place? You think it's the Birdman? Yes. Yes, we all do. The local man, also known as the previous tenant of that same house, was called Railroad Joe. I guess they're big on nicknames in that area of Philadelphia. Our team, Railroad Joe founds a lot more. It's like, why is he called Railroad Joe? Well, he works on the railroad, doesn't he? Sevy the Birdman is like, oh no. Our team finds out that this real man's name was Julius Paroli, and he becomes suspect number 2. Yeah, Railroad Joe is way less likely than Sevy the Birdman, who drives around without tires. Knocking on the actual door to the address in question produces no response. The team can't really investigate much further. Wait, so they're blurring out the exact number, but then they're like, well, it's this street, and here is the house. Did they not Google Street View? People will find that in about 3 seconds. They do find what Steve calls test tiles or proto-tiles all around the neighborhood, though, with little scraps, familiar lettering, and whole words, sometimes in Spanish, that are obviously related to the lettering on the Toynbee tiles, so they're definitely in the right area. Moving on to the next clue, the newspaper article. Someone online gave the tile team a lead on an article from the Philadelphia Inquirer from March the 13th, 1983. It was by Clark DeLeon, and it was titled, Theories. Want to run that one by me again? It starts by saying, call me skeptical, but I had a hard time buying James Marasco's concept that the planet Jupiter would be colonized by bringing all the people on Earth who had ever died back to life. Marasco says he's a social worker in Philadelphia and came across this idea while reading a book by historian Arnold Toynbee, whose theories on bringing dead molecules back to life was depicted in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. It also went on to say that Marasco had been sending his theory to press and media outlets and had founded something called the Minority Association to try and get his message across. Apparently, according to his conversation with DeLeon, this association consisted of me, Eric's sister who does the typing, and Frank. Seems legit. However, Clark DeLeon was not a believer. Yeah, me neither. How are those dead molecules getting there? Those dead molecules now make up other stuff. Like, where Napoleon, he's dead, and then they bury him in the ground or whatever, and then he gets eaten by like grass and worms and stuff, and then those worms get eaten by birds, and then those birds get eaten by people, and it's like, look, Napoleon's molecules are now a part of everybody else. I like to think I've got some of Napoleon in me right now. And, like, you can't just extract them all and take them to... Why am I trying to justify this insanity?
Huh? Why not?
Anyway, we have documented proof from 1983 of all the ideas on the Toynbee tiles in one place. James Marasco, consider yourself added to the list. Now, what about this play? In the early 1980s, at around the same time the Toynbee idea was starting to try and make its mark, David Mamet published a one-act play titled 4 a.m., which is about a radio host taking a call from someone who believed dead people could be resurrected on Jupiter thanks to ideas taken from Arnold Toynbee in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. Sound familiar? Well, yes, it does. Mamet has gone on the record saying that he made this conversation up. However, the Toynbee Tiler was known to have made multiple calls to radio stations, including the Larry King Show, to try and spread word of his idea. As the Tyler used the same language and phrases in many of his communications, we can further insinuate that Mamet did hear this call because he mentions molecules in his play, which we know, thanks to Clark DeLeon's article, the Tyler also did. There's no mention of the word molecule in the whole of Toynbee's Experiences book, and people don't usually refer to themselves as being made of molecules. An early leaflet from the Tyler states, public notice, Toynbee's idea in movie 2001: A Space Odyssey to bring every dead molecule of every human body in history to life on planet Jupiter. Mamet's play has the caller referring to humans being made out of molecules twice in a very short work. Mamet calls this play an homage to Larry King. It's a conversation between a radio host and a caller, so he's not denying that he listened to the show. He must have heard the Tyler call in at some point, forgotten about it, and then used it later for his play. Or he's written the conversation basically verbatim and is just lying about where he got the idea, and now it's too late to backtrack. I mean, maybe. I think it's just, even though it's like there's a lot of similarities, it's entirely possible that he just listened to a lot of Larry King and is just like, yeah, okay. He thinks he's making it up and it's just pulling from his subconscious. Either way, this does not seem like a coincidence. It's definitely not a coincidence, though. I think Mamet owes somebody some serious royalties. Wait. It's just an idea. These clues have given our Tile sleuths some more information on the timeline of the Toynbee Tiles, and more importantly, 3 people to start investigating. So let's go through that list. The suspects: Severino Sevi Werner. The Birdman. This guy's number 1 for me. The Birdman sounds like exactly the sort of man to be laying plastic tiles around a city. Consensus around the South Philly neighborhood is that Sevi is very quiet, very intelligent, but all he cares about are his birds. He's auto-described as reclusive and timid, so not likely to be driving all over the country putting weird tiles down in busy areas. After knocking on the door yields no results, the tile team try calling him, but his phone's been disconnected, so they end up ringing his mum. According to Mrs. Werner, her son has never been to South America and can't travel anywhere because of a lung condition. He's also not interested in history at all, so she doesn't see how he could be connected to this whole situation. She also says that the tile team aren't even the first people who have tried to contact Sevi about this, but he apparently had no idea what the previous person was on about and didn't wish to engage with strangers anyway. This seems to be a dead end, so moving on to Railroad Joe. Okay, well, I guess with that, my favorite suspect is now over. Sorry, Birdman.
I'm sorry.
You still sound super weird, though. Railroad Joe, or Julius Paroli. Tile team member Steve was pretty convinced that Railroad Joe was their man. They found out that Paroli had worked for Conrail, and when looking at the map of the Conrail road network, it matched the tile distribution area to a T, going out as far as, but never past, the limit of the Conrail area in any direction. That's a coincidence, isn't it? I mean, I'm saying that sarcastically. It's like, that's a hell of a coincidence, meaning it's him. Although I thought it was Birdman, so you can't trust me. This was limited to the United States, however, and it didn't extend to South America. But wait, an observatory in Chile was building a big new telescope, the world's largest at the time, and big pieces of the telescope were traveling through Paroli's train yard. He's even mentioned in a piece about it where it says, Julius Paroli, track foreman, had both ends of the track spiked so no other cars could run on it. The switch at the head of the track was blocked with a wooden wedge. Maybe he sent a load of tiles down on trains for someone else to place. There's also a connection to Jupiter here, what with this being a ginormous telescope and all. And there's more. Steve tried doing some research on the Paroli name and found the Paroli brothers monuments. This was a family that had a history of carving tombstones, not a great leap to then create cutout letters in linoleum tiles. On the surface, Railroad Joe seemed like a great suspect. He lived at the address on the Santiago tile. He had the opportunity and time to place all of the tiles over the areas covered by the Conrail network. He might have been working strange hours in a somewhat lonely profession, meaning that no one would have seen him doing it. There is one problem, though. Julius Paroli died in 1987 before the majority of the tiles were even created, unless he resurrected himself as an adult on Jupiter, of course. Yeah, but then he's going to be on Jupiter. It's really far away. What's he going to do? Just... That's it. He just has to be on Jupiter now. James Marasco. The tile team contacted Clark DeLeon, the columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer, who had spoken to James Marasco on the phone and written the short piece about him. Marasco had said that he was a social worker, and DeLeon remembered him as being intelligent but not confident and quietly spoken with a working-class accent. The team scoured the Philadelphia telephone directories of the 1980s to find any reference to James Marasco, and they did find one, but he lived in Chestnut Hill, which was an upper-class area of the city, not the more southern area they thought he might have been based in. Other people had also followed this lead in the past, leading to Chestnut Hill Marasco's wife publicly denying his involvement in the Toynbee tile mystery. Marasco literally couldn't speak for himself, as he'd had a voice box removed for some reason. Holy okay. Also, he was a very old man by this point, and he would have been laying these tiles while in his 70s and even into his 80s, which seemed to rule him out. After exhausting all other avenues of inquiry, the Time team came to the conclusion that James Marasco, who called Clark DeLeon in 1983, didn't appear to exist. The search continues. I don't know how far I personally would have got into investigating something like this. Probably not very far, as if it takes more than a couple of Google links, I generally just give up. But the Time team was still in the early 2000s here and had to rely on a bit of legwork along with the combined efforts of other internet sleuths, so maybe that kept it more interesting. Yeah, I feel like nowadays you look up a mystery and it'd just be like, yeah, mystery solved. Except for my bloody license plate mystery. Seems insolvable on Google. Should ask ChatGPT. Maybe ChatGPT would know the answer. Or it would at least make up an answer that would make me feel, that'd be nice. In 2006, Bill O'Neill, who had hosted the website Toynbee.net, just grew tired of the whole thing and gave all of his information over to the tile team to go through. This included thousands of emails with people's own theories, ranging from wild Bible conspiracies to links with Pink Floyd, to that the Tyler is just an art dealer trying to get some street cred. They also found out that they are far from the only people who investigated this or even made a documentary about it. Some people had been reporting seeing the tiles in the 1980s and have been looking for more information ever since. They did manage to eke out a few more clues from the backlog of information on the website, however. There was one man who recalled watching late-night TV sometime in 1985 when a pirate TV signal crashed the news he was watching. This ghostly broadcast quickly gave out the now familiar Toynbee idea 2001 Jupiter message before disappearing again. This kind of thing was very rare in the 80s, so the man had always remembered it happening. He'd even phoned the TV station to see if they could give him more information about it, but they couldn't, and said other people had also called in about it. Another piece of the puzzle was an email from someone who remembered seeing the Toynbee message pasted up around Philadelphia on flyers. He also mentioned the TV hack, but referred to it as shortwave, leading the Tile team to realize that the Tyler or someone involved with the Tyler had a knowledge of shortwave radios. Again, I think I would probably be unable to make any further connections here, but our intrepid team go to a local 2006 shortwave listening convention to see if anyone could help them find out more. This is some crazy dedication to find out about these tiles. I kind of like it. Like, it's so nerdy, but I'm like, hell yeah, I'm down. Like, I'd like to, if I had time. I have no time in my life for anything, but I'd be down just to go on an adventure finding about tiles. Yeah, this would be cool. No one seems to have a clue what they're talking about when Justin mentions Toynbee, Jupiter, and resurrecting dead people, and he even raises it as a question after a lecture to be met with dead silence, but eventually they do strike it lucky. First, Justin has an interview with a shortwave broadcaster, spreading his plea to the wider community and asking anyone who knows anything about the Toynbee message or who might have sent it to get in touch. Secondly, they meet a man who has a direct link to the story. The strange wording of the message made him remember that back in the early 80s, he had met someone who had asked him for help in setting up a P.O. box, which was something he did back then. The man never received any mail, but did send out a lot. Why do you need a P.O. box if you send? P.O. box is for receiving mail, isn't it? It's like a little box you have in the post office. I've meant to get one like many times, but I never have because I hate having to go to the bloody post office to collect. So often it's just the postman comes and it's like, oh yeah, I didn't bring your package, but it's in the post office. So you've got to go to the post office and queue. But apparently you can just get a box at the post office, like a big box where they just leave all your shit and you can just go in there and collect it once a week. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. I don't know why I haven't done this. I might do that this afternoon. It would save so much time. He didn't have much interaction with this man, but did say that the name Minority Association definitely rang a bell. He couldn't think of much more information, but said that if the Tile team wanted to throw some names at him, he might be able to see if he remembered any. They started off with Sevi and then tried Severino, to which the man instantly replies, Werner? Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is what we call a served case, a bingo, a hole-in-one, or as my daughter likes to put it, yes, let's freaking go!
Let's go!
As a side note, what a memory this man has. So yes, with the confirmation that Werner had set up a P.O. box for the Minority Association and had contacted media companies and the press with the P.O. box as the return address, the Tile team are happy that this is proof enough that their original Tyler was number one suspect, Severino Werner, exactly like Simon thought. Yes! The investigation wraps up. Wait, why didn't we think it was Severino, the Tile man? Oh, because he just denied it. He just denied it. That's it. It's him. Taking a trip back to Werner's neighborhood, they find out more and more evidence that the reclusive man is indeed the mystery Tyler. Some neighbors report that he boarded up all of his windows and only goes out to get groceries at 2 or 3 in the morning. Another neighbor says how his car had the passenger seat taken out and was also missing the floorboard on that side. He parks his car and does it. Oh, that's genius. This is a massive break in the case and confirms how the tiles have been laid this whole time. Werner drives around with his tile or tiles and drops them through the hole in his car's floor directly onto the street. No one would see it being done, and he could do it in an instant. This also explains how tiles have popped up in extremely busy places, such as outside the Empire State Building and at the entrance to the Holland Tunnel. He just drives past, plops out a tile, and following traffic does the rest, helping to embed the message into the asphalt, and nobody is any the wiser. Yeah, that's pretty smart, because you can stop, like, anywhere. Just stick your hazard lights on and be like, just pretend you've got an emergency. Like, even outside the Empire State Building or whatever, just for like a minute. And then just put it down and then drive off. Boom. Yet another huge confirming piece of evidence comes to light when another neighbor remembers that Werner used to drive around with a huge antenna on the top of his car. When he drove past the building, everyone's TV shows would be interrupted with a brief pirate signal banging on about resurrecting people. If these neighbors had only remembered these two hugely important things a bit later, they would have saved our Tile team a lot of time. Even more backstory is revealed that links Werner with the known Toynbee timeline. He apparently used to play the accordion at 3 a.m., which eventually led to some people breaking into his house and threatening him with a knife. And I just imagine this would be just a regular person. Because it'd be like, can you imagine this going on for years and you're just getting insane and you're insane and you're just being driven. It's 3 a.m. and he's like, you're like, I'm a normal person, but I have to go over and threaten his life. Stop it. The Birdman. You asshole! This tied into the time period of messages talking about the mafia coming to kill him, and also links to the mention of blast doors on the manifesto tile as Werner reinforced his front door with all kinds of barriers after the break-in. The tile team tried knocking on the door again, and while it's clear that he's actually inside, he doesn't come to the door. They then feel bad about how scared he must be feeling and don't want to hound him. It's clear that he doesn't want any attention on himself, so they just leave with the knowledge that while they've worked out their mystery, they'll probably never get to talk with the Toynbee Tiler. A few other interesting tidbits popped up. Remember that shortwave interview that Justin gave after the convention? Someone called Euless Fleming heard it and emailed in. He remembered that back in the 1980s, he'd heard the pirate Toynbee broadcast while on a long trip in the car and had written to the P.O. box to ask for more information about this Jupiter idea. That's kind of the thing you do as a kid in the 80s. Yeah, kids these days would be like, nah, I'm busy, I'm on TikTok. Fleming's email also states that he has a handwritten letter from James Marasco, as well as a packet of documents from the Minority Association. So why is this Marasco guy still in the picture? Haven't we already figured out that Severino Werner is the Toynbee Tiler? Is he an associate of Werner's? Marasco is listed in the documents as the publicity director for the Minority Association and appears to be the one writing all the documents. According to the documentary, Colin says, the name Julius Paroli never came up. The author of the documents refers to himself repeatedly as James Marasco, except for one time when he refers to himself as Severino Werner. Boom. Mic drop. Case closed. Let's go. Yes. Okay. So they're the same person, basically. It's just a pen name, right? Or like an alias. They're using the same P.O. box, they have the same phone number, and Marasco has the same handwriting as Werner. The description Clark de Leon gave of his phone call with James Marasco matches exactly with how Sevi Werner's neighbor describes him. The tile team posit that Sevi is very quiet and timid. He invented this other personality to get a bit of distance from himself and help get his message out. Yeah, he just accidentally one time signed it off wrongly. He's like, yeah, Sevi, god damn it. Here's Justin's theorized timeline of the whole saga. In around 1979, Sevi reads Arnold J. Toynbee's work, which sparks a memory of the movie 2001, which came out several years before. In Arnold Toynbee's autobiography, Experiences, he writes, quote, however, the dust of which a human body is composed, quantitatively trivial though it is an integral part of the inconceivably vast physical universe, and when, after death, the body dissolves into its physical elements, these elements themselves are not annihilated. Death has destroyed the organism that, for a brief time, had succeeded in maintaining itself as a puny counter-universe, but the physical materials of which the dissolved human body was composed at the moment of death have not been destroyed through ceasing to be incorporated temporarily into an organic physical structure. This is difficult to read and just wild. They are continuing to exist as parts of the physical universe, though this no longer in an organic form. Okay. Werner took the idea and tied it in with 2001 and its crew's mission to Jupiter and the potential rebirth or afterlife in space that it shows. The TAR team theorizes that Werner believes that we have the key to heaven and resurrection, but we need to harness and improve our scientific know-how to get there. He thought he had found a way to overcome death and got fixated on this idea. He calls Larry King live in February 1980 to try and spread his theory, and his call is heard by one David Mamet, who apparently subconsciously files it away for future reference. In 1983, Werner tries contacting other media outlets and press officers. Clark de Leon speaks to him on the phone as James Marasco and writes a small article on it, but nothing much else happens. Werner also starts plastering his leaflets around the city and starts using shortwave radio broadcasts from his car. He's nothing if not persistent, but I mean, if you had a massive epiphany that you'll discover the answer to ending death, wouldn't you try and get the word out by any and all means necessary? Sometime between 1983 and 1987, the first TARs start appearing on the streets. Werner then drove his car all over the US and also visited South America, probably laying hundreds of TARs in the process. His mother was presumably just lying to protect him or had no idea what he'd been up to. Just to confirm, Werner is Marasco, Marasco is Werner, and the whole Conrail area connection of Julius Railroad Joe Paroli just seems to have been a total coincidence. Hell of a coincidence, though. Werner continued to place his tiles up to and past the time of the documentary, which was filmed in 2006. Justin writes a letter to Werner, but never gets a reply. A few months later, he believes he randomly saw Werner on a bus, but just didn't think approaching him was the right thing to do. He had his own epiphany about his place in the Toynbee Tiles story, and decided he should leave the Tiler in peace, and he would go his own way, having solved it. According to a postscript in the documentary Resurrect Dead, a couple of years later in 2008, people reported a resurgence in Toynbee shortwave broadcasts, and even more tiles started popping up, with more of a variety in design, leading our crew to suspect that more people than Werner are making these now. Yeah, they're copycats, of course they are. They saw the documentary and be like, let's go.
Looks like we found a copycat.
In conclusion, we know who's making them, the original ones at least, we know how he's placing them, and we sort of know why he's doing it. It's probably quite frustrating for Werner to be trying to impart this important information, and everyone's just taking it as some form of guerrilla arts project or mystery to be solved when everything he was saying was in complete earnest. It would be cool to spot some of these tiles in the wild, and it's easy to find maps and locations of existing or surviving tiles online should you be in the vicinity or fancy a bit of a road trip. As for believing in Werner's theory though, I'm sorry Sev, I'm afraid I can't do that. Nice 2001 reference there, Katie. And that's where we end today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoy it, please leave a review, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get this show. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.